But still, you're embedding really bad ideas into a job interview process. This is not appropriate, ever, for any graduate program. Clinical psychology or otherwise, it doesn't matter. If any program doing this kind of nonsense, that's disgusting. It's not every day that I am surprised and shocked by something. But I bring this up because I think it's relevant to talk about in the context, of course, universities being the place where we train the next generation of scientists, and not just STEM scientists, it's the next generation of social scientists, of course, with psychologists and sociologists and what have you. And so this becomes incredibly important to think about, what kinds of things are being taught at universities now from the very first moments of graduate school in particular, which is where you get the most career training for whatever degree program or whatever profession you wish to go into. What follows is an anonymous account. Here it was published by Lee Jussom, the Dark Fiddling Pirate, on Unsafe Science. Lee, being a psychology professor himself, got permission from this student to post the email, anonymously. Now, I will say in what follows, it is entirely the expressed opinions of Lee, as well as Lee wrote the first part of this, obviously, as well as of the student who wrote anonymously, and bravely so, I would say, talking about their experience in orientation and interviewing for graduate school in a clinical psychology program. And obviously I will honorably read everything here as 'tis, and just add some commentary and thoughts as I read it. This was one of the few things that was really strange and stark with it. And so if you're not a follower of Unsafe Science on Substack, you should be, because it's an excellent Substack. Actually, if you're interested in scientific related issues, be it from psychology or social sciences or from the STEM disciplines. So Lee writing up here first. I am on at least, this is Lee's commentary first. I am on several discussion groups via email and text. Below is an email I received from a student describing a Kafka-esque experience when interviewing for a graduate program in clinical psychology. It was just a report to the semi-dissident group. It was not intended to be made public. It takes a lot to shock me at this point, but this email did. So I asked the student if I could post the email here. The student agreed on the condition of anonymity, so that email is presented here in full as written, with no edits by me or the student. So this is from Lee's commentary. With that, there is a prologue here to the email. And I do believe the prologue is written by the student, not by Lee. I note here that the Grievance Studies sting, better known as the Grievance Studies Affair, I think is the language properly, but anyway, in which Pluckrose, Lindsay, and Boghossian submitted outlandish papers to peer-reviewed journals to expose their corruption, was widely derided and dismissed in academia when it came out. I remember that. Actually, I remember that being derided and dismissed, and you know why I got a problem with it being derided and dismissed? Because you don't like that your own flaws get pointed out. When that happened. So that's just a note on that part. It included one paper which received a revise and resubmit, and probably would have been published had the sting not been exposed, arguing that white college students should be chained to the floor to experience oppression. Again, that is a hoax paper that was going to be submitted, that was submitted and would likely have been published had the sting not been exposed. By the way, the only reason the Grievance Studies Affair came to an end as it did was because it was not the journals who figured out there was a hoax going on. It was a Wall Street Journal reporter who figured out that there was a hoax going on, or a news reporter that figured it out, which is, again, very telling. It includes the infamous Dog Park paper, which not only was published but received an award. Yes. There's a video, actually, where Peter Boghossian, James Lindsay, and Helen Pluckrose are reacting to this, where it was actually, not only when it was accepted, but also given award for, distinguished scholarship for a hoax paper, arguing that men should be leashed like dogs, metaphorically, of course. It will soon be obvious why this is the prologue. So yeah, I'm actually not 100% sure if this is Lee writing this or if that's the anonymous student, but this is the anonymous student for sure. The email itself by Anonymous. I figured that since many on this list are established in their careers, it might be helpful to share an example of what someone interviewing in clinical psychology programs is experiencing. I think when people hear things like this, it will be clear how dangerous it is now that Jews are viewed as white oppressors. During part of my interview day at, omitted to preserve writer anonymity, the department segregated us by race. Non-BIPOC students were asked to leave the front two tables and sit behind BIPOC students. For those unfamiliar with the acronym, BIPOC stands for Black, Indigenous, and People of Color. The two tables in front were for people the school considered the right race to sit there. Most of the faculty sat with the BIPOC students, some not mixing with other students at all. For some faculty, this was the only opportunity there would be to talk with them. The students, that is. In the U.S., all of interview day is considered an interview. This meant that the students received more interview time based on their race. It's just a point there. This might not seem as messed up as it is at first. Consider, though, the implication is that the school was giving me directions as to what parts of the room I could sit in as an Ashkenazi. Other than the social, sitting in classes and touring campus, there were two parts to the interview. The first was a clinical interview, and the second was a 2-paragraph essay. The essay asked us to decide from a list of 5 people of different races, sex, and sexual orientations, which 3 would die from not receiving medical care. There was very little information outside these characteristics, which races would die. I tried to focus on other characteristics and my faith as a Jew in maximizing lifespan because it's illegal to deny medical care based on those characteristics. I didn't want to get into a program by expressing that I wanted to break the law. Indeed, it is illegal to give folks different medical It is illegal to deny medical care based upon characteristics. And that's one hell of a nasty question to ask. Again, what the hell? That's one of those things where I'm like, what the hell are you doing as a clinical psychology program that you're asking your students that? Your potential students that. Anyway, it's not hard to see how this exercise lays the groundwork for, quote, repairing health inequities by access, end quote, by denying some medical care because they are Ashkenazi. If it's happening in education and the same language is being used about healthcare, this ideology may soon drive who has access to medical care and who doesn't. Turning to my own experience, my clinical interviewer sent me an email saying I did a great job and he really hoped I would join the program. Another professor emailed me and said he hoped I would join the program and we could chat more. Some of the candidates said they had never taken a psychology class. Others had no research or clinical experience. I have a 4.0 from UBC, 2.5 years of research experience, 1 year of crisis center experience, 1 year of psychologist-supervised client-facing experience. The school issued offers to 75% of the interviewees. I didn't get an offer. Out of the 20 students I met, there was only one cishet white male and certainly no Jews. It is really becoming obvious that psychology as a field is really only open to people who are the right age, race, and sex. I honestly don't know why we have anti-discrimination laws. Nobody enforces them. And if this doesn't stop, get ready for it at the doctor's office. So, the reason it doesn't stop with that is quite simple, is nobody's filed the lawsuit. And frankly, I do think that's going to be necessary, is you need to start having some students say, you know what, I think something's fishy going on here. We need to file some lawsuits. Obviously, we can't know for sure. Now, I am going to preface this because we obviously can't know for exactly sure why the student didn't get the position here with that particular college. We don't know which college it is. rightfully so, because it's an anonymous letter. But the thing alone of them separating out people by race at the different tables, and demanding it be so, is itself quite likely, to me anyway, I would welcome a lawyer's interpretation of this, quite likely to me a violation of civil rights law. You're not supposed to do that, ever. Particularly if you're public university. So, that's where it's kind of horrifying to me. Is that, yeah, you're actually having segregation. You're having certain things go on that are quite screwy. And asking to deny care. This is the one they drew. Absolutely crazy. The essay asked us to decide from a list of 5 people of different races, sexes, and 5 people of different race, sex, and sexual orientation, which 3 would die from not receiving medical care. So I would love to know what the exact question was in the essay prompt, but if I'm going off of the statement from this student in the email, they're being asked to, which 3 patients do you not want to treat because of their different demographic characteristics. And that's all you're given. That makes no sense. Because as a doctor, let alone as a clinical psychologist, you would be looking at all the other things going on in their lives. Not just their demographic characteristics. That's what makes this so despicable of a question, to be honest. It's really disgusting. And so, we can't know what's going on and why the student was offered. And I can't speculate based on just what was there. I'm not going to do that. I leave that for others to do. But I do think wherever this school is, that's a heck of a nasty bunch of questions. And I wouldn't trust that school at this point to produce good psychologists out of it. And this is just to make the added point. I know Lee has talked about this. I've seen this come up in other places too, that there are psychologists finally starting to realize that they have an ideological bias problem in their own discipline. And that's great that you're finally realizing it. How you're going to fix it is a different question. But this is absolutely wild. This mess is absolutely wild. To just embed it like that. And this is a question I have not heard a decent answer to. There's plenty of literature at this point that shows that the DEI trainings and initiatives just don't work and have a crap ton of negative consequences. I've done a video on it. There's more literature that's come out since then. All those other kinds of things. So there's been the other push of, well, we're just going to embed these beliefs and DEI-related things and postmodernist stuff into everything. We're just going to embed it into everything. Okay. If it didn't work when you did an initiative, what makes you think embedding it is going to make it work? You're still embedding the same bad ideas that informed the training into other things. And this is an example of that. Embedding really bad ideas into a job interview process. Effectively a job interview process. Yes, I realize this is a graduate school clinical program application and interview. Fine. But still, you're embedding really bad ideas into a job interview process. This is not appropriate. Ever. For any graduate program. Clinical psychology or otherwise, it doesn't matter. If any program doing this kind of nonsense, that's disgusting. You're not engendering any level of trust between those students who are going to be colleagues, who are going to be, colleagues in the same discipline for the rest of their foreseeable careers. Why would you do all this at the start to basically not have them engender any trust amongst each other and just keep them separate and send them the message? Well, I don't want to go that far, but in either case, you're basically not engendering any trust between future colleagues in a discipline by doing this to the students as you interview them for the program. It doesn't work worth a damn. And this is actually pretty disgusting, but it stops when the lawsuits get started. That's pretty much what I think is going to be necessary. But I also question whether or not new institutions need to be created to handle all this. That's all I wanted to say on that. I encourage you to go read it. Again, the opinions here are expressed mostly of the author, and I've added some commentary, but of my own that are my own opinions. But that's just a point that I wanted to make on that. If you like the video, hit the like button on the way out the door, comment on the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel, all that lovely good jazz. Until next time, I'm Adrian. May you stay curious.